So we are halfway through the Las Vegas event rerun, and you guys know what that means. That means it's time for banner number 2 to drop, and it's featuring the one, the only Bunny Artoria, Ruler Artoria, Mommy Artoria. I don't care what you call her because she's all of the above. And it also brings characters like Summer Melta Lilith and Summer Okita. But in today's video, we're going to be talking about Artoria and whether or not she's worth summoning for. Now, in the grand scheme of things, I'm just going to go ahead and tell you guys she's probably not worth summoning for if you want to get Castoria. But as I dropped in a community post, I think this is one of those servants that I'm like, you know what, I'll allow people to, make an exception for this servant because is it a little personal bias on my part? Maybe. But if I didn't already have Ruler Artoria, would I be summoning right now? Probably. So I just want everybody to know that going in, that I'm like, you should definitely be saving for Castoria. But I mean, isn't Ruler Artoria just a different flavor of Castoria at the end of the day? No, she's definitely not, because Castoria is a bit better, but just some philosophy to ponder, you know what I'm saying? But with all that being said, let's go ahead and jump right into the servant, starting off with her hits, and she has a very interesting loadout as she's rocking a double quick, double buster deck. That is because Ruler Artoria is supposed to be a busty crit servant, which I think she's excelling at already. But to help more on that crit angle, they actually gave her 2 quick cards with 4 hits apiece and 10% star generation rate flat even, which is really nice to see. It does mean she's capable of dropping a fair bit of stars in a Brave Chain. The double buster card means that she can bust a Brave Chain with herself, with her own NP. The only part that's a little wiggity whack is the fact that she has a 4-hit arts card with only 0.57% NP gain. It means it's going to be very, very reliant on getting those crits because the high natural hits is very good for crits. It's just that you're going to be very reliant on that. I don't know if I necessarily like her only having the 1 arts card, but I see what they're going for with the double quick card so that she should be able to generate those stars. So whenever the arts card does come around, she can do some crits with it and refund some NP. They also gave her about 3 different things in her kit that help her get her NP. So I guess it's really not all that big of a deal. And you guys see that every time they put out a servant that I love, they give them that 5-hit or higher extra attack. And Ruler Artoria is no exception. They gave the babe herself 5 hits on the extra attack, which if you guys don't know, is a composite card that gens stars NP and does big boy damage. So we love to see her getting the gold standard 5 hits. But with all that being said, let's go ahead and move into the skills, starting off with skill 1, which for the life of me, I just don't understand. If you're gonna give her a 40% battery, just give her the 50%. Just give her that extra 10%. Why are we being weird about this? Because if you guys don't know, if you have a 30% battery, you're still compatible with the Koyenskaya meta. You just need to get like in a pen skill or like a maximum broken K-scope or something. 50% is pretty much the ideal setup for the Koyenskaya meta. 40%, you're just in some weird limbo space in between because you don't exactly have the 50%, so you kind of have to do the whole pen skill K-scope thing, but it just doesn't feel as good, right? It just feels really weird. Like, give me that extra 10%, man. Regardless, a 40% battery is still a 40% battery. It's still very, very good, despite the woes of it being a little bit weird with Koyenskaya, but still compatible. It really does help patch up that struggle she may have getting to her NP because she can just refund a big fat glob of NP, right, with this first skill. But that's not all that it does. It also gives her evasion for 1 turn, which is very good for her own survivability. And then it basically gives her the Ishtar delayed attack buff, right? You know, where you click Ishtar's 3rd skill and then, you get the attack buff next turn. Although this one isn't a 50% attack buff, it is just a 30% attack buff that you can stack with some of her other buffs. But still a very, very solid start to the servant because all of these things are all very, very good. 40% battery to help with their NP generation rate, evasion to keep her alive, and you have follow-up damage for the next turn. It's just you kind of have to pop this skill the turn before you want to fire the NP or the turn before you want to do some big crit damage. But as long as you got that timing down, you should be A-okay. Then we have her second skill, which actually is going to be getting buffed with this new rerun event. And basically what this skill does is if you've ever used the Shuffle Mystic code, she pretty much is able to do that. However, once they buff this skill, they actually take all of the cards that were just shuffled and they push them away for a turn. Because originally, like, you could kind of get some of the same cards if you guys have ever used the shuffle skill. Sometimes you're like, well, that didn't shuffle the cards at all, right? It just gave me all the same cards, right? This can kind of help fix that problem by saying, you're not going to see this random Merlin quick card for this turn. You know, I'm just going to push that away. So it's very, very good for dealing yourself a new hand. I mean, with the whole thing of her being a card shark, I would imagine she'd be able to do stuff like that. But that's not all that she does. She also buffs the entire party's critical damage by 50% for 3 turns, which is pretty insane because, say it with me, that is Waver's crit buff, but for the entire party as a reference. So you know that you're going to be doing a lot of damage with crits. And then one of the things that I really like that they did for the skill is not only did they lower the cooldown to 5 turns instead of 6 turns, but they also tacked on a party-wide NP generation buff by 30% for 1 turn. So just on the off chance that you're able to shuffle into, say, Ruler Artoria's arts card, you're able to actually get NP gain off of that, and you're actually able to refund and loop your NP just that much easier. So I really like what they did with the skill. It's just a very good step in the right direction. And then finally, we have our third skill, which is just pretty good generic dot buffs. I mean, it's a 40% attack buff for 3 turns. That also gives her some pretty big star weight for 1 turn. And it's on a nice 6-turn cooldown. The only unfortunate thing is that through her skills alone, she doesn't double buff herself, which I imagine they did because her damage is already really, really good as is, just because she has a bunch of massive attack buffs. And that's just like with her pretty much just stacking a whole bunch of different attack buffs, right? Like not really double buffing, which if you guys don't know, different buff types in FGO actually multiply into each other. And that's why if we just go ahead and fast forward over to her NP, you'll see on the overcharge that she gives herself the Omni card buff, meaning she gives herself a buff to her quick arts and buster cards that does proc first. And so predominantly you're going to be seeing that buster card multiply into her attack buffs that she's giving to herself. And just with those 2 buffs alone, she's already doing a lot of damage. So I imagine that's why they didn't give her like an NP damage buff or a special damage mod or anything, because she already does a lot of damage just by pretty much raw stacking attack and then giving herself a little bit of a buster buff. Keep in mind that those other card buffs are not completely dead for the turn as well, because that arts buff, if you're doing, say, a Brave Chain that has the arts card in it, that is going to buff the damage and the NP gain of said arts card. Same thing for the quick card. So these are actually really, really good if you're doing Brave Chains with Ruler Artoria. And then here's the third thing that she does that helps her refund her NP. Every time she fires her NP, she just refunds it by 20%. So she just gets 20% back every time. And then why not? Because she's already just not doing enough, apparently. She also just pierces defense for no reason. So if you're fighting a boss that is stacking defensive buffs, which there are quite a few in the game, Ruler Artoria is really good for that, because she'll just be like, nope, I'm just going to kick you right through that. Or I guess shoot a laser beam, depending on which ascension you're using, right? So overall, she's still a very, very solid servant. She's still really, really good. Just a little bit of odd synergy with Koyanskaya because, you know, she only has the 40% battery. Don't know why they skimped out and didn't give her the 50%. But she's still a very, very solid servant. If you do roll for her, I can't, you know, get mad at you or anything because she is good. You will get some value out of her when Koyanskaya comes out. It's just like Castoria is so much better and is going to impact your box a lot more that I think it's worth to just save for Castoria. But at the same time, I know deep down in my heart of hearts, if I didn't have Ruler Artoria, there's no way I wouldn't be trying to get her, because even if she sucked, it's big Dami Mommy Artoria. Like, who doesn't want that? And she plays Yu-Gi-Oh! Or is like some Yu-Gi-Oh! Meme, dude. Come on, man. You can't tell me to not summon for that servant. So all I'm going to tell you is that if you do roll for Mommy Artoria, to just roll responsibly. I know my videos are always like catalysts for people. Like, they're always in the comments like, you dropped the video and then I got her in one single summon. So I'm like, you know what? If you think the YouTube video is the ritual and you're feeling lucky, just roll responsibly. Don't pull a ZTL and burn all of your Castoria savings for Musashi, where I'm not heeding my own advice, where I was like, you know, you really want Musashi with Castoria, but more than anything else, you still need to pull Castoria, otherwise that Musashi is not nearly as useful. So I'm like, but I think I just wanted to break the curse so bad that I just didn't care. So don't be like me, roll responsibly, and let me know how those summons go in the comments down below. If you do decide to summon for Ruler Artoria, do keep in mind that Kama is also right around the corner as well. That is another servant that's going to be very hard to say no to because of how good she is, so just keep that in mind. Also, remember that Summer Melta Lilith is on the banner, and Melta Lilith is an absolute godsend with Castoria, so maybe that influences your decision to roll for the banner or not. Just keep all that stuff in mind. But with all that being said, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. You guys have yourselves a nice day. Make sure you like the video, subscribe, all that good stuff. We're trying to make it to 20K, then 100K, and then who knows, maybe I'll become the president of the European Union. I don't know, man. The sky's the limit for the ZTL channel. But with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. Again, have yourselves a nice day, guys. Peace. Late, guys.